What's up, nerds? It's Zach the Gooner Goblin here. Warhammer 40k is an enormous setting filled with vastly different characters, cultures, and species. With all of this variance, anyone and everyone can feel represented. 40k is inclusive without even trying to be. So to me, it is ridiculous that with the vastness of the lore, there is a small subsection of the fandom that can't fathom that women can be in positions of power or just be general badasses. Now, this could be from an influx of newer people with the smash hit that was Space Marine 2, but I have seen a substantial amount of discourse surrounding women in positions of power in the 40k universe, among other things. Now, this is somewhat always kind of been around, especially since GW created female custodians, but that isn't what I'm going to be talking about in this video. So today I would like to highlight some of my favorite women in Warhammer 40k. A quick disclaimer, there are tons of powerful or important women in 40k, so this will not be an exhaustive list. Also, as each of these ladies could have their own dedicated video, think of this as less of a deep dive and more of an overview or highlight. If your favorites don't make it in this video, let me know in the comments below. Thank you for commenter Anna Banana for this video idea. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe or else chaos wins, and join the Discord to learn how to enter into our monthly giveaway. Okay, let's girl boss and gatekeep our way into the video. The discourse in Space Marine 2 in which I was referring revolved around Major Sarkana. This is coming from the same kind of idiots that made the wokeness spreadsheet saying that it is improbable for there to be a female authority figure. Their argument is that she was included just to appease the woke mob, even though one of the few notable characters in the original was Second Lieutenant Mira, and that was made in 2011 before woke was even a thing. Having women in power isn't a new thing for Warhammer, whether it be the aforementioned ladies or another example being Admiral Kaminska in the book Battle for the Abyss. But to start this off, let's talk about the epitome of Dommy Mommy, Lotara Sarrin. Lotara Sarrin was the commanding officer of the World Eaters flagship, the Conqueror, during the Horus Heresy. If you know anything about the World Eaters, you would know they are some rowdy boys, to say the least. I mean, they eventually follow Khorne the Blood God for a reason. So the fact that she really did not take any shit was insane. I think a good example of this is from the book Betrayer. So this all started because the World Eaters captain Delvarius basically abandoned ship. So against Lotara's directive, he left the ship to go fight, but in doing so, he essentially left the ship undefended. So when they were boarded by Ultramarines, it ended up being kind of a shit show because they had less manpower. So obviously, this kind of pissed Lotara off. So when Captain Delvarius comes back to the ship, he's all happy. He's like, he just got to fight, so he's pretty stoked. But Lotara sees him and she's like, okay, this guy's got to be reprimanded, right? But instead of doing that in a normal way, she pulls out her las pistol and just shoots him in the face. His people just start shooting back. So another World Eater, Eska the Librarian, comes and protects Lotara. So then this becomes like a big thing, right? The captain wasn't dead because he was wearing his power armor, so he gets up and he's like, how dare you? And he pulls off his hammer and he's ready to fight. And Lotara's just like, okay, and just spits at his boots. So then the librarian has to get in between them even more. Eska keeps on being like, stand down. Delvarius is like, no, she shot me. I'm gonna get her. Until eventually 3 more World Eaters come up to stand next to Lotara, one of them being Sergeant Skane, and he asks, problem, Captain? Delvarius is bristling at this point, so he just points at Lotara and starts, but Sergeant Skane just cuts him off and says, I wasn't asking you, Captain Delvarius, I was asking Captain Sarrin. And Lotara just has this cold ass line and she just says, nothing I can't handle, Skane, but you're welcome to stay anyway. Then Delvarius is just like, no, this doesn't concern either of you, and his men are starting to gather around him. And Lotara just spits on his boots again. And there's some more back and forth until the apothecary Cargos comes up to Skane and says, hey, this looks kind of entertaining. Did I miss something? And then Delvarius looks up and says, she shot me. To which the apothecary just says, well, I'm sure you deserved it. I think this really highlights the amount of respect that a lot of World Eaters had for Lotara. I mean, this is a mortal human woman that just shot an Astartes captain and got away with it. And that never really would have happened in any legion, let alone the World Eaters. Now, the only other person who gave it to the World Eaters like that was Angron himself. And surprisingly, Lotara was actually pretty amicable with Angron, which is weird coming from the kill first, ask questions never Primarch. She would even sometimes talk shit and have banter with Angron and get away with it. Which, again, he has killed members of his own legion for less. She once complained about remembrancers aboard the ship, and Angron immediately expelled them. And yes, there is in fact fan art of them. Speaking of remembrancers, this one might seem like a weird choice, but next I'm going to talk about Mersadie Oliton. She was introduced to us in the first Horus Heresy novel, Horus Rising. Being that this was the first novel of the Horus Heresy, it is likely that Mersadie was your introduction to the concept of remembrancers. Remembrancers were essentially chroniclers. They were human civilian artists, historians, journalists, etc. that accompanied fleets during the Great Crusade. She is also notable as she acts as somewhat of a foil for the main character Garviel Loken. She becomes kind of like his personal remembrancer, listening to his stories about past and current battles. But I would say almost more importantly, she is our window into how insane Astartes and the concept of Astartes actually are. She directly comments on their weird, inhuman physiology, even if she actually likes it, and reflects on how they are removed from humanity with their lack of human emotions such as fear. She also acts as an anchor for Loken's humanity when his Legion and Primarch are slowly falling to chaos. She is also the reason Rogel Dorn finally sees the truth of Horus's betrayal using her memory coil implants, saving Nathaniel Garro from execution. So I would say she is an important and underrated character in those first books who persists throughout almost the entire heresy. Also, she has a big ass head, and I like that.
I never looked at the ass. I always looked at that fucking cranium.
Next, I'm going to talk about another remembrancer, but this time she wasn't exactly known for her job. I am speaking, of course, of Euphrati Keeler. She was actually friends with Mersadie Oliton and was also attached to the 63rd expedition. She was an imagist until she was almost killed by the demon Samus during the Battle of the Whisperhead Mountains. After this, she joined the emperor-worshipping cult, forgive me for my pronunciation, Lectitio Divinitatis. She would later banish a demon that was accidentally summoned aboard the ship back to the warp, cementing her as the saint of the cult. She would continue being a figurehead for emperor worship and would pop up multiple times throughout the heresy, whether that be by helping Nathaniel Garro or leading a sacrificial prayer during a last stand, stopping the Death Guard and reactivating the Astronomicon, saving the lives of Sigismund, Corswain, and many others. Hell, she also took part in a prayer with Sigismund to the enthroned emperor. She was an important character throughout the heresy, and I think her influence extends to modern 40k lore and the fact that they all worship the Emperor. Now, I'm going to stray away from humans for a second and talk about the Eldar for you filthy, Xenos-loving heretics. Not to say I can blame you. Yvraine is a notable Eldar who has walked many paths, from dancer to warlock to warrior. She currently serves as emissary for the newly awakened Eldar god, Ynid. Again, I apologize for any mispronunciations on my part. To me, her most notable lore involves her part in the revival of the Ultramarines Primarch, Rabute Gilliman. Guiding the survivors of the 13th Black Crusade back to Ultramar, she worked closely with Belisarius Cawl to aid in the resurrection, using her powerful psychic abilities to essentially stitch his shattered soul back together. Also, if fan art is anything to go by, she is definitely sleeping with him now, and being able to handle all of that is impressive in and of itself.
Are you winning, son?
And saving the arguable best for last, we have Saint Celestine. Okay, so I'm just gonna level with you. I love the Adepta Sororitas. I could have easily made the whole video just about them, but in the spirit of making diverse content, I decided to branch out. But there was no way in hell I wasn't going to talk about the living saint herself. Before she was proclaimed a living saint, she was a Sister Repentia of the Order of Our Martyred Lady. Okay, so Sister Repentias are basically sororitas who have failed or fallen short of one or more of their strict religious codes, but is still like super horny for the Emperor's grace, so they seek to repent and earn back that favor. They do this by throwing themselves headlong into battle with little to no armor to seek redemption in the fires of battle. Oh, yeah, right, Saint Celestine. So during her time as a Sister Repentia, she was thought to have been killed during fighting in the Palatine Schism, killing over 100 schismatics before she fell. But lo and behold, she wasn't dead, and then everybody around her is like, holy shit, is she touched by the Emperor? All her wounds are healed, so there's something that's going for her, so that's crazy. So then she gets back up, she's cool, and then she leads the charge as a figurehead. And then halfway through, she's like, okay, hey guys, this is cool and all, but I gotta go to the shrine. And everybody's like, what? But then she does. And then she spends some time in the shrine, and then she comes out clad in the armor of St. Catherine and wielding the ardent blade. Essentially, she has now become a vessel for the Emperor's sweet, sweet divine radiance. She later died on Forax as the War Master detonated an atomic failsafe, annihilating everything for miles across. After that, she would come back anytime the Imperials needed her most. For example, she would come back at a crucial moment of the Promethean War where she slew Demon Prince Lord Gralistix, after which she disappeared again. During the 13th Black Crusade, she manifested again, battling Abaddon the Despoiler. Oh, and she was also part of the group that guided the survivors to Ultramar, leading to the resurrection of Guilliman. She later fought and died to Karn, but to be fair, Karn is a complete unit and 40k's version of the Doom guy, so there's not really any shame in that. But this leads me to the next notable thing about her. Every time she dies, she wakes up in a hell dimension of the warp with her memory wiped. She wakes up on a huge mountain made of skulls and bones, forced to take part in various trials and faced with unspeakable horrors, slowly regaining her memory, armor, and sword. If she is able to overcome her trials, she gets to return to life once more. Each one of her many deaths leads to this, but each time she perseveres, time and time again. And that will finish us off. Thank you so much for watching, and if you want me to cover anything else, please let me know in the comments below. Until next time, Goblin out.